can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like $100,000.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Weiss here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs like the founders of P90X, Atari, Einstein Bagels, TerraCycle. We talk about TerraCycle a little bit and many more, and how they overcome big challenges in life and business. Our sponsor today is Rise25.com, which I co-founded with my business partner, John Corcoran. Rise25 hosts in-person small group VIP events for top entrepreneurs all over the country, including many events in the e-commerce industry. Rise25 hosted events this past year in Austin, Chicago, Santa Barbara, San Diego, New York, Sonoma, Las Vegas. Probably more I'm missing. If you see yourself, and I know Matt does, the value of immersing yourself with other top entrepreneurs to connect and collaborate to get your business to the next level, inside or outside of your industry, go to rise25.com and contact us and find out where our next event is going to be. I am excited today. This has been like a long time coming, maybe like 3 years coming. I don't know. Today we have the co-founder of Demac Media and co-founder of Pela Case, Matthew Bertulli. Pela Case is the world's first compostable phone case. So, I didn't know this until Matt and I were talking, which there's billions of cases produced every year. That's like equates to maybe 400 million pounds of plastic that will probably end up in the ocean or some dumpster or some landfill. And so it's amazing. You guys are disrupting the phone case industry, so that's really cool. We'll talk about that. And Demac Media is an award-winning e-commerce products and services company. Over a decade, they're based in Toronto, and they're one of the largest Magento Gold partners. I think you talked to them really early on, so I want to hear that story. Yeah. And one of the top, not only in Canada but globally, and a Shopify partner as well. Their 90-person staff provides e-commerce platform technology and managed services, which we'll talk more about, to retailers, manufacturers, wholesale distributors, selling either direct-to-consumer or business-to-business. And the whopping, you guys are moving the needle in the economy. They help their clients process over $500 million per year. So, Matt, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, man, thank you. And of course, I'm drinking a glass of water while you're actually
totally
going to cue me up, right? That's how it always works.
So there's so much we could talk about. And, I want to talk about what's going on with Pela. And I want to talk about Demac. But I wanted to start off early on because all of this kind of stems from entrepreneurship. And your family, you come from a family of entrepreneurs. And your grandparents, your mom. So talk about, what did you see? What were they doing when you were growing up?
Yeah, I guess I'm technically like third generation retailer now. Like my grandparents started and owned a bunch of different retail stores in Northern Ontario. So like, I think 3 or 4 decades worth that they were in business, like 40 years. Mostly in furniture, home decor, a brief stint in baby gear in, I think, the 90s. And then my mom took those businesses over from them when my grandfather passed away. So my mother's family was always the self-employed group, and my dad's side was the engineers, working the mines group.
So were you working in retail, or what were you doing as a kid?
As a kid, I kind of grew up in the back room of a retail store. Right? Like, or in the warehouse.
Because you were early on in e-commerce.
in Canada, I was like one of the first, 10 years ago. Like, it was non-existent up here. And then, I'm about 12, 13 years, like, direct in e-commerce. And then when I was 19, my first job was like working for a company that made like add-ons for the Sims games. And sold those online, like little like dresses and shit that you would buy for these characters. And then I've always been in selling like something online, right? And everything from digital goods to physical goods. But the last 12, 13 years has all been physical stuff. Like I haven't sold a digital thing in a long time.
So I mentioned in the intro, you called up and you were talking to the founder of Magento's wife. What was going on?
Yeah, Addie. So Addie, like, when I started Demac, I had just come out of a stint at NetSuite, and I left NetSuite right after we went public, which was a great company and like really fun to work for. And I didn't really know what I was going to do. I just knew I wanted to do something in retail e-com.
And I want to just paint the picture. I think I remember at the time you are getting married, you quit your job, you don't have a job, you don't have a company. At this point,
my father-in-law was not super thrilled.
It's like, what are you marrying into for this guy?
Yeah, totally. The father of the bride speech was kind of awkward in that one. It's like, this kid's interesting. I think that was probably
what were you
his
thinking
words.
at the time? I mean, obviously, did you have a greater vision? You're like, I just don't like what I'm doing. I'm going to do something else.
I just wanted to do my own thing.
Yeah.
I was 26, 27. Was just ready, man. Like working for a big company. I went to NetSuite to learn how to sell. I was a software developer by trade, and I didn't know shit about like the front end of a business, marketing and sales. So I got a job at NetSuite as a pre-sale engineer, just like wealth of experience in a very short period of time. And then I wanted to go and start my own thing, and there was no big vision. It was just like, I want to have some fun and do my own thing.
Were you think being in that your family the way you were just gave you the confidence to just like not worry about it?
Yeah.
Were you not concerned at all? I mean, most people maybe be freaking out at that point, like I need something to be doing. It sounded like you knew you'd be fine. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So like that's the thing too, right? Like there's no BS here. Like I came from a decent middle class family, with a skill set that was on the rise. So my worst case scenario was like,
go back.
Doesn't work. I got to go get a job that pays extremely well. Like I will never sell this story as some
still a risk though. I mean, still a risk.
Totally a risk, right? But like, I started a service business, which those are cash generating right from day one if you do them right. So it was not I wasn't looking at it like this massive risk. I was looking at it like this opportunity to do something myself.
You
and
have
just
a fallback plan.
Out. Yeah, and I always knew that even today, like everything could fall apart and everything could go away, and like I know I'm good, right? And that's just a confidence in oneself too. Like over time, entrepreneurs struggle with this imposter syndrome thing, and I definitely do, but I also know there's like a baseline level that I could probably be okay at.
So there's no big idea at the time. So what were you thinking you were going to create?
I was just thinking like the Canadian retail. So I was watching when I was at NetSuite. Most of my customers were in the U.S. and the whole e-com thing was starting to really gain traction in the U.S. market. But in Canada, it was like less than 1% of all retail. And I figured there's only a matter of time before it comes north. And that's kind of like in and around that. In that first year or so that I had left NetSuite and was doing some independent consulting and working with different retailers I knew on like back-end systems integration, shit that I knew really well, right, is when I'd heard of Magento and kind of reached out to them and started talking to this woman named Addie Adam. I think Adam was her last name. But it turned out that was actually Roy's wife. And she was my like first channel manager at Magento. And we got in there before they were a real company. Like they were still called Varian and they had no enterprise product. And she was just like one of the best people to deal with. She's
really running the show, right?
I suspect, Roy is brilliant and Yoav is brilliant. And Addie was she was so smart and so wicked to work with. And I think like Demac was built largely by just, right place, right time, create your own look. Magento just turned into a rocket for those first 5-6 years, right? And we were kind of it in Canada for a long time until people woke up and realized there was a product here and it was worth looking at for the right customer, right?
A lot of runway.
Tons of runway. And, same sort of deal with Shopify later on. Like, I know Harley Finkelstein is the COO of Shopify. Mm-hmm. Known him for, probably 10 years. And kind of when they were getting going and really starting to catch traction, and particularly with their Plus product, which is their enterprise product.
Yeah.
He and I had been talking for years and years. We spoke at some conferences together, sat on a panel together. Whenever he was in Toronto from Ottawa, we would shoot the shit. And, again, like recognize that there was probably something happening with Shopify Plus and Shopify. And we jumped on there fairly early. Yeah, it's the Demac side is testament that you build a great team, be open to opportunities when they come, say no to everything else that takes you too wide or too thin, and it tends to work. It's just like a degree of how much, right? Like some spectrum of success.
What's been the evolution of Demac? Because oftentimes companies start off doing one thing and then end up doing, obviously evolving. Initially, what were the services you were providing for?
It was
Magento?
Just development. Yeah, it was just straight up like my partner and I. So my wife, my partner, and I were like the founders of the business, right? My wife was our creative director, and then Dimitri and I are both software developers, and he's a particularly good one. So I was okay, and we started off mostly with dev, like just hardcore dev services around the platform, and then quickly layered in like design and user experience, and that was the business for the first 7 years, and then.
For Magento? What are you developing?
Just Magento.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Yeah. Super narrow focus for a long time. And then a lot of our customers started to get some traction. So the thing that I like, if I look back, the thing that I screwed up was I was a particularly good strategy guy. Like I see the field really well in e-com and in retail.
Yeah.
And that's just like growing up in it. I know how the industry works.
Yeah.
Right to where stuff comes from to how it winds up.
The whole supply chain.
The whole supply chain. And I never realized there was a lot of value in that, and kind of just provided that as like part and parcel of what we did on the development side. Started to realize there was a lot of value in that, and then evolved the business to what it is today, which is like plan, build, grow. So like we help a lot with strategy and consulting, do a lot of dev. Actually, less dev now than we've ever done. Really? Because it's really the industry's changed. Technology's getting more commoditized. So
people can push a button and start a site.
Yeah. Like the appification of e-com is definitely here. I have like my own problems with that. I call it death by 1,000 apps.
That was a question I have right here. I have favorite Shopify apps because I know you have a bunch of them.
I've got tons, and I got tons that I'd like to light on fire. But just like years of using them, and So I think what's happening now is like the industry is evolving even further. So I think there's going to be a renewed need for the type of development services that we used to have, but they're changing. Instead of like a lot of building, it's a lot of integrating, and it's very consultative now. As much as software companies like apps would like you to believe that everything works for everybody, it doesn't. Like I'm experiencing that now with Pela. I got 200 SKUs. It's a fairly simple business, but I'm good at what I do, and I can still see like a level of complexity rearing its head that's going to require me to invest heavily in technology and building systems just for Pela. Mm-hmm.
What's missing in the market? What do you need to create?
So the problem with 1,000 apps is none of them talk to each other, right? And like, sure, there are BI tools that are trying to give you like some kind of aggregation point, but
there's no like Zapier for Shopify apps or something like that.
They try.
Okay.
But what I want or what I would need is still going to require somebody to stitch together. Like the point, click, shoot thing takes you a ways down the road. Like I think it gets you 85% of the way down the road. But when you really start to scale, like I'm not talking about this $0 to $1 million shit. Like anybody can do that. That's so easy now. And I mean, you just like open up Facebook and somebody's selling you a fucking course for like start your e-com business and drop ship your way to bullshit. I think that if you're going to go from 1 to 10, right? It's like $1 million to 10 or 10 to 20 or 30 to 40. That's a whole other game. And, you don't buy apps for that. You build teams and process and systems for that. And you build a brand. You don't build like a Facebook funnel or some stupid shit that somebody's telling you to do.
Yeah.
Like that's how those companies work. Right. So
what gets you where you want now won't get you where you want later. type of thing.
And people say that, like, especially the people that get you there aren't the ones that take you forward. But when you really go from like Pela now, right? We're going to go from a high 6-figure business to a high 7-figure, 8-figure business in 12 months.
Yeah.
In sales. And
very
that's
fast growth.
That's 10 times. That is actually 10x. People throw that around, but that means that the business breaks every 90 days, right? Like every time your business breaks, people, process, capital, structure, they break. Like that's what happens when you double. It just breaks. So, and you can't buy apps. You cannot app your way out of that. Like $99 a month does not make a business go. So I do see, like the landscape is changing so fast, man. I like it. It's a lot of fun. At the same time, I think it's creating a lot of pain and confusion in the market.
Yeah. I want to talk about the dragon of a business, meaning you're grabbing on the dragon's tail. The Pela Case. So I want you to talk about that, but I do want to pick up later about, okay, you start off with this Magento developing and then evolve, but talk about you're grabbing the dragon by the tail.
Yeah, Pela was born as the theory at Demac 2.5 years ago when I bought half that company, when I bought half of Pela, was, can we become our own biggest merchant, like our own biggest customer, right? Mm-hmm. Like, am I actually good at what I do, or am I full of shit? That was the internal question for me. And I actually met Jeremy, my partner, or one of my two partners, at Mastermind Talks in Napa.
Oh, really?
Probably where I met you originally, right? So I met him there, and he came to my roundtable, and we were just chatting afterwards. And then about a year later, like, we just got into business together, and I believed in the mission of the product. I really liked that he took like a really novel approach to a relatively commoditized product or product category. And so we kind of grabbed it, incubated it within Demac, tried a bunch of stuff, rebranded it, redid the tooling for the product. So we even redesigned the product.
Because you guys manufacture it in Canada, right?
For now.
Yeah.
But the scale is getting so outrageous that we're going to have to move it overseas because, North America, we don't make things anymore, at least not well. That's just the sad reality of manufacturing here. But yeah, so we incubated Pela inside of Demac for about a year and a half. And then it kind of broke away and has become this, I call it the dragon. So we're just sort of hanging on to the tail now. And it's been doubling about every 90 days. So it's got compound monthly growth rate, trailing 12 months of 22.4%.
What were the pain points he was experiencing and why he came to you with Demac?
He had a hard time, so he had a great product. He just had a hard time commercializing it, right? So Jeremy's a brilliant farm boy from the middle of Canada, like Saskatoon, who spent 7 years hacking on this thing. And he's like your true blue inventor, right? Like, he saw a problem, wanted to solve it, but the guy's an environmental consultant, not a business builder. And I give him so much kudos for recognizing that. Like, he's like, look, I can make a product, but he recognized that building the business is very different, particularly today. So he just had a hard time finding the customer that was going to really take this thing forward. And even that, it took us a year, and I would call it a year and 2 months to really hone in on who our customer was. Like that first customer, like the one that gets you the other 1,000, right, or 100,000. Once we found our girl, then I knew how to apply leverage, right? And that's kind of what's turned it into the dragon. Is just like this ridiculous honing around who's our ideal customer, how do we reach them, what do they want to hear, what's important to them, like what would turn a phone case into something
like Tom's shoes type of thing.
Tom's is one of the companies we're modeling after. Yeah. So we're looking at we want to build the next Patagonia or the next Tom shoes that it's not in business for the sake of being in business. Like, I couldn't give a shit that I'm selling phone cases, right? We care very much about creating a future without waste. That's the mission. Phone cases just create a lot of waste. And we started there because Jeremy recognized that it was a product that people use for less than 2 years and then toss. And when you toss it, it's plastic. It's on the planet for 500 to 2,000 years. So it's what we now call like utility products or functional products. So people use them for less than 5 years. So it's not like single waste plastic like water bottles and straws. That's a whole other problem. Big one, definitely a big one. But we sort of recognize that there's a waste stream that human beings create. And
people are still trying to solve that problem, the single-use ones, and they're not even touching the phone cases.
There's so much. And I kind of I don't know about you, man, but I've been going to these like the mastermind talks and all these events for years. And I hear people like Richard Branson and Elon Musk, they talk about these moonshots. And I always thought well, those are for billionaires. Right? Like you need to be one of these guys to take one, and then kind of realize that that's actually not true. And I wrote a thing on Medium a year or two ago, basically like entrepreneurs just need to solve better problems, right? And I'm sure you've read the book Blue Ocean Strategy, but like that has really inspired us with Pela, when how we're going to find blue ocean in categories that most people, it's just a race to the bottom. So yeah, I think like a bunch of stuff is making Pela work, and we're building a brand to stand up there with Patagonia. Like Yvon Chouinard to me is like one of my business heroes. Like the guy has just done a great job building a brand. He's a crotchety old fuck sometimes, and I love him for it. Like he's just super endearing, for me, right? Maybe not for everybody. But the brand is amazing in what they stand for. And we sort of set out and say they can't be alone, right? Tom's Shoes can't be alone. Tesla can't be alone. Like more of us need to kind of say, okay, like we can't build a rocket. Like I'm not capable of building a rocket that takes us to Mars. I know that. But I can build a brand and a business that solves a big problem that still needs to be solved.
Yeah. Maybe you prevent us from having to go to Mars like 5 years earlier or something.
I'd like to keep that from ever happening.
Right.
So like let's keep our oceans from dying. That's
So I mean, it makes sense though, Matt, as far as you basically were doing that for other people, right? Just growing their companies and brands. Now you're doing it for this, and it maybe just took a certain mission for you to get excited enough to do it for yourself.
I was getting bored with selling. Like I was getting bored with just like e-commerce. I get so repetitive, tired of selling the same shit all the time, and like it just got boring.
With your skill set, talk about what are some of the things you did when this is a classic case where he invents something. You can't just put it out and everyone's gonna to buy it or find it. So what do you do? And I know we talked. You have like 12 or more product launches in the next 60 days, right? So you're going to be doing this you've done this over and over for over a decade now. Yeah. So what did you do with Pela when he came to you? It's a great product, great mission. What do you do to blow it out of the water in a year and a half? That's a really quick amount of time. I have
a framework for this. And I sort of honed it over the years, right? Like, what are the components of one of these brands? It's like when you hear about a Casper or a Warby Parker and you think like it's not possible. Take the venture capital out of it for a second.
Right.
They do a bunch of things in the right order, right? Like there's a sequence to which they do things. Pela's problem was they just had never figured out who their customer was. And I think a lot of brands, what I saw over the years was brands were trying to be too many things to too many people. And the first thing we did was say like, okay, let's go on Instagram and see if we can find one vegan, right? And that was the goal, was like, I want to find my vegan. And by that, I mean, I want to find, the joke with vegans is how do you know that they're a vegan? They tell you. Like when somebody introduces themselves, it's like, hey, I'm Matt, I'm a vegan.
Right.
So I wanted to find like our vegan and the person that would not shut up if we gave them this product. And that took a while to find, like, who's that one customer, like the Kevin Kelly's 1,000 True Fans. Like, you just need the one narrow segment to build a $1 billion brand. And we definitely didn't set out to build a $1 billion brand. We just said, like, if we're going to get traction with this product, we need that customer. So we started there, did a ton of testing on.
What did you find? How did you find that person?
It was Instagram, and it was a lot of, like, we call it the grind. The grind is, I hired a girl named Santa. She came into Demac as what we called our merchant in residence. So basically, like, I want an entrepreneur that works right beside me that's just going to do the grind, which is like hang out on Instagram, talking to people, posting, talking, just do the grind until she found a bunch that were like over the moon engaging, respond to everything, repost your stuff, give you those signals that you need to know that, like, okay, we got our vegan here. And we found those girls in what are called zero wasters. Right? So there's like a whole group of bloggers and influencers out there that are trying to live their lives with zero waste.
Yeah.
And we're like, Jesus, our product is a zero waste product. Like, this is such a good mission. Let's go after that. And that's when we turned on like paid amplification, right? So, like, started to really invest in the business and reaching those people. So that was, and that's the whole, like, for me, I've got 3 dials I play with. I've got, like, attract and engage, convert and retain, and then defend and automate. Those are the 3
Why
wheels.
defend?
Because you can't advance all the time. You need to turn around and defend your flank. And if you're going to build a scalable e-com business, like a brand, not something that flies and buy Alibaba and, like, sell for a week, none of that, but, like, something that lasts and is profitable, you need to build team and systems, and you need to have, like, good data management. And I call that defend, right? That's basically shoring up your flank as you advance. Growth is not marketing is definitely where you spend most of your time. But if you don't shore up, like, the best funnel or some other thing in the world is just going to kill you. It's eventually going to kill you. So, for those 3 dials are kind of where we play. Yeah. Right. And once we figured out our customer, then it was just like, how do we attract them, engage them? And then once we figured that piece out, then it was like, okay, how do we convert them?
Yeah. I want to talk about defending for a second because, it's almost like you've been building Demac for this moment. I don't know if that's completely true, but totally in a sense, how do you allocate resources now? Now you find something now we're moving ahead, and you still have all this other stuff to manage, but you're like, this is starting to be a rocket ship. How do you allocate resources? Like you said, you're hiring fast. What are you hiring for? And how do you allocate current resources and then hiring?
So it's the simple answer there is, like, we didn't try and complicate it. So Pela is a separate company, right? With its separate team. Demac has a, like, management team. I have a president that runs that company for me. He's a partner in the business. Like, Demac is a machine that was built over time, and it was separated. And then Pela, we broke it off and said, like, we're giving it its own headquarters, its own team, everything. Yeah. Now the challenge. I
totally get that, but if I were you, I'd be like, there's this really good staff member.
Absolutely, yeah. So that happens, right? So Pela actually pays Demac fair market, right, for the services we want from Demac. So, like, email and paid acquisition and design and dev and things that I don't see value in having on Pela full time, right? I know, like, so the entrepreneurial, speed at all cost part of me says, like, put them on your team. That way you can just bother them every day.
Totally.
That creates no discipline and no rhythm, right? So we build rhythm, and we build like a cadence to the business where it's this constant improvement machine that we're going after, instead of this, like, holy shit, I need to launch a campaign on Wednesday, who can do it for me? And, like, you're just calling and screaming at people like that. I want to avoid. It's just insanity. Like, we have 12 product launches over the next 60 days. That would be insane if we didn't plan and have rhythm. Like, it would be nuts. We've got to launch 7 new devices over the next 60 days. Like the two Galaxy, so the Samsung S8,
That's
S8
just
Plus,
for Pela, by the way.
That's just Pela.
Oh, wow.
Just Pela has 12 product launches. We've got, 7 devices, and I think 5 cause partnerships and brand collaborations starting.
Wow.
I mean, it's nuts.
Who do you decide? What positions do you decide to put full time at Pela?
Yeah. So right now, we're making this jump from like a $1 million a year business to a $10 million a year business really, really quickly, and ultimately like much bigger than that, right? Like our monthly run rate just keeps going up and up and up. So the first role and it's always personal. Like for me, I'm not a great operator. Right? I'm not a good systems creator. Like I'm a good visualization, see the field guy. I'm very good at piecing it together, but like actually building playbooks and systems, not my strength.
So is one of your other co-founders, because obviously you built a big company with Demac, so one of the other co-founders.
Yeah, so we have 3
strength?
partners.
Right.
And Brad, who has come on recently as a partner, his last company was a 9-figure business. And, he's been really advising and helping us with how to build teams, right? That's
different skill set.
Yep. And he's done it at like massive scale. So, that has been a massive help, right? Jeremy can focus on product. I can focus on like acquisition and retention of our customers. I also we're building out like operations. We've got roles open in marketing, what we call customer advocates, so like a modern version of support, right? We have retail sales. So we're not selling Pela at any retail store right now. We will be as of this fall. They're all calling. We just say no because, we're not ready. So I think it's, to build a brand, you got to look at, this is why I really can't stand this message right now, which is like you build an e-commerce business on Facebook somehow. Like you don't. You can sell some stuff through Facebook, but you don't build a business.
I mean, that's interesting because the approach, you find your most raving fan, and then when I asked you, what do you do when you're launching a product? Mm-hmm. And it wasn't tactics. You didn't start off with tactics on a funnel that goes from Facebook to ManyChat to wherever, but you started off with that one customer. So you find that raving customer, the vegan, so to speak. Yeah. And then what? So you find these people, they're all super engaged, super interacting.
Yeah, so that's when you go and you take a tactic like a Facebook ad, or for us it was Instagram ads, right? And we just started building awareness on Instagram. So there's just a way to scale up advertising, and there's a lot of people better at this than I am, but I learned from them, like somebody like a Nick Guzmich, right? There is a method to how do you scale up paid amplification. So I think that's the difference here is we never looked at ads as purely a top of funnel thing, right? Which it was not meant to be a direct response channel that just, spend $1, get X in return. It was, let's build a brand. Like let's put valuable content out in the world, like things. So there's 2 things that you got to do if you're going to build a brand, I think. 1, you have to inspire, and 2, you have to educate. And that's how we did it. So find your vegan and then inspire and educate them. And ads is a way to amplify inspiration and education. That's it. It's not some funnel. All those tactics that people talk about are useless in a long-term plan. They might be good for short windows of time. Like if you got a good product and you can play the arbitrage game for a little while, it's great. You'll make a few bucks. But I'm trying to build something that's sustained. And that's
it's tougher. It's tougher if someone doesn't have a differentiation.
Absolutely.
Or a mission behind what they're doing, right?
Yeah. So and that's it too. It's great for us and that's it. There's different strategy for everybody. I think there's big buckets that we all fall into at different businesses, but for Pela, it's a great product with a great story. It's got a mission. It checks a lot of boxes, which then means our marketing and our amplification can be around telling that story instead of what's the best offer I can put in front of a target audience to try and do juice transactions and then try and like build a back end of a funnel or something, right? I'm not knocking those business models. I like for this kind of business, I think it would be short selling ourselves.
There's a balance between, education and selling.
Totally.
And so how do you walk that rope with this brand, with inspiring education, but you still obviously in the day you want to be a sustainable company. So what do you do? How do you weave that into the selling piece, I guess? It's
like a 4-to-1 ratio for us. If you got 4 weeks on a calendar in a month, like I would say all 4 weeks we'll have education and inspiration type content that we deliver to our customers. So like whether they're blog posts or Instagram images or we're sharing other stuff. And then, once a month we'll do something, or once every 4 to 6 weeks, we'll do something that's around like campaign selling, like we've got a campaign next week around Earth Day where we're going to do a sale on the site plus 5% of all sales is going to go to Save the Waves Coalition. Like, so and our selling always has some kind of charitable element to it. Because if you go right back to that whole idea of waste stream, there's charities cleaning up the ocean, but their job is pointless if we don't fill the top of our waste stream with product that won't wind up in the ocean.
Yeah.
So we're trying to use the top of the waste stream, which is, products like phone cases, to fund the cleanup. Right. And hopefully that creates a nice virtuous circle for the next little while. Right. So we'll do selling, but selling with purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. When I talked to Tom from TerraCycle, when I asked him, his thing was, it wasn't like getting TerraCycle products. He's like, stop consuming things. That was his main ethos, was like stop or consume less, not stop consuming things, but
consume less and consume better.
Yeah.
I think that was, I definitely had this as one of those things. Like we really started to scale Pela when we figured out that you have to find your vegan, but you can't behave like vegans. Like you remember, so the early, like my wife was a vegan, right? And the early day vegan, you go back 10 years ago, they were too preachy and too negative in their tone. And now it's changed. Now, you look at the food bloggers and the vegan thing is like, it's far more inspirational. Like food is like, I'm a vegan by proxy, because my wife doesn't eat meat or fish.
She still is.
Yeah. I'm like probably more vegetarian than I am, carnivore. So, I can speak from experience in that like a long time I felt like I was being talked down to, instead of inspired.
Yeah.
And, with Pela, we're like, okay, we need to find our vegan, but then we need to inspire them. And that's, I think that means that like that changes how you do things.
Yeah. I want to hear about what does it look like now? You have 12 product launches in 60 days. What does that look like? But I do want to mention, on the vegan piece, if anyone hasn't seen, I don't know if you've seen it, Matt, but JP Sears has a video.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Meat eaters acted like vegans. So if you are interested about this whole concept,
that's the perfect example of what I'm talking about, which is like, you can't do that. I mean, he made a parody of it, right? But like,
it's funny though.
You can't be that person. So I think Tom is right from TerraCycle. Like, it would be awesome if people stopped buying so much. My approach is I'm going to work with human behavior, not against it.
Totally.
Right? They're going to buy a phone case. I'm going to give them an easier swap. So they don't. So like we're not even priced. We are priced at the same price or lower than Apple's silicon case that they sell. So we're not going out there saying like, hey, buy this eco product or it's better for you and it's twice the price. That's not the strategy, right? It's give them an easy swap for something they're already going to buy. Yeah.
So what does the next 60 days look like for you? So you have 12 product launches. One alone is enough work in 60 days. Now you're doing 12.
Man.
So
I can tell you about I think 10 of them. And then there's a couple that are I think going to disrupt the industry even more. So I got to keep those under wrap.
Okay.
But so, I mean, we started out with iPhones, right? And over the next 60 days, we're covering the major Android devices. So the 2 Pixel 2s, the 2XL, the 2 and the 2XL, the Samsung S8, S8 Plus, S9, S9 Plus, Note 8, they're all coming out in the next 60 days.
How do you decide, backing up a second, so you obviously start out with iPhones, right? So how do you decide what the next product is and when to even, because it's a lot of capital too to do these product launches.
Tooling is expensive, right? Like each tool is a $10,000 to $15,000 investment. So each device. So you think like the Google Pixel, that's 2 of them.
Yeah.
That's $30,000 that you got just to buy the steel to make the cases.
Right.
That's not material. That's not labor. That's not. So yeah, the CapEx here is not. It's not insignificant.
It's a calculated decision. It's not like, oh, let's just do a product launch and see what happens.
It's very like for us now. It's very data driven, right? Now that we have the traffic and the demand, it's not hard. Like we can't post something on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook without a stream of comments asking us for Pixels or Samsungs, and every now and then Huawei is starting to creep its head up, right? Because we sell globally. We're not just Canada, US. Like we are 100 countries selling this thing.
Will you take pre-sales or anything? Or
so we do, yeah.
Okay.
We'll start the S8, S8 Plus, whatever they call that thing, pre-order in the next week or so, like right after the Earth Day campaign. And we will pre-order and pre-sell certain ones. Certain ones we just know we're going to kill it, so we don't even bother.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So I keep interrupting you because I think of so many questions, but we'll circle back. But
that's cool, man.
Is that the start of the product launch, or is the product launch, do you consider start after you've tooled it? Or is the product launch considered?
It's after we tool it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talk about before then, like the pre-sale, because there's pre-sales going on too, right?
So we don't do pre-sale before we tool, right?
Got it.
We want to make sure that if we're going to do a pre-order, we've already got the tool being made. Mm-hmm. It's a bit of a risk.
It
right?
is, yeah.
Like it's a $10,000 to $15,000 risk. But at our size now, I'm willing to take it. You know, early on I wasn't. So we waited until we had really good traction with Apple and iPhone cases before we tried to branch out, just that we had the capital to risk, right? So there's that. Like, don't be stupid and take on unnecessary risk. The other thing too is that like it's not hard to look at GA data and see that we're getting decent Android traffic. And so that's like hard data. And then so what we did 6 months ago was we put up a Android phones coming soon page, and we just monitored traffic to that page.
Right.
Didn't promote it, just left it on the site. It's in the menu, and we've just watched that creep up. And that was like a good.
Yeah, if you go to the site, if you go to pelacase.com, there's an iPhone tab, and you could drop down, and then there's an Android tab, and you could drop down. And so you monitored how many people are actually
traffic to that Android tab.
Yeah.
Since there really isn't Android, there's one S7 case that we've offered, right? That was the first one we did just to see if we could sell it. It did. And the crazy is that's 2 generation of phones now back. So we do really well 1 generation back of wherever the current phone is, and that's just because of who our vegan is. You know, they don't rush out and buy new phones all the time. So you know your customer.
So anyway, so I wanted to backtrack because I know there's a lot that goes into before the product launch with the tooling and the thought. So now you are doing the tooling. What happens for some of these?
So it's milestones. I mean, if anybody's made product before, you're working off of a schedule, right? So it's the tools get made over in Asia, they get tested in Asia. We actually have 3 employees. Like we have people on the ground in Hong Kong. So you know we have no choice but to do that now. So the tools get made there. There's a delivery schedule that we're working off of before they arrive in Canada that we can start shooting product. We shoot product like you make it. You shoot it through the tool. And we have about 10 colors and 3 engravings. So one tool will produce about 50 SKUs to sell.
Why 10 colors? Why do you decide on that as opposed to 20 as opposed to 5? People ask.
Yeah, I mean we had more, but we sort of slimmed it down. Like there's just this choice paradox thing, right? Like we had some, we continue to cut the colors that don't perform and add in new ones to see if they are better.
Anything surprise you with the colors that actually people wanted? I mean, I would be like, you like black or black. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, so the black cases tend to be I mean, 85% of our customers are women under the age of 35. And if there's a black case sold, it's typically for a boyfriend.
Right. So they want, what's most popular then?
Like the ocean turquoise color, which is like a teal. I mean, we sell to ocean lovers, so it's no surprise that that one. Actually, the most popular colors are green, the dark green. It's very like earthy, hippies love it. I love it. I'm a tree hitter. So it's a great color. So yeah, like one tool is, 30 to 50 SKUs depending on the style variations we want to do. So we have to like produce one of each at least. We usually shoot 10 of each color to start so that we can get photography done, video done, start getting digital assets created for actual launch. But when we start the pre-order, we don't even have photos of what it's going to look like. We just show people like, look, it's going to be offered in these colors. You can look at the other cases to get a pretty indicate. It's a freaking phone case, right? It's not going to have like autonomous driving on it. So it's not like we need to show people.
Right.
Talk
about the materials for a second. So like you go to the site, you could see the bestseller is green, eco-friendly, which makes sense, I guess, with the brand. But so talk about some of the material, because it's got a speckled look to it.
Yeah.
Which
that's
is kind of
that spec that you see in there is very much our calling card. And that is good old Canadian flax shive, which is the waste. So in Canada and in our prairies, we grow a lot of flax. And flax, we use it here for the oil from the seed. Yeah. Right? But the husk, the shive that those seeds come out of, is really, really strong. In Europe, they actually make linen out of it. So the husk gums up farm equipment pretty badly.
Wow.
And in Canada, like Jeremy grew up in the prairies watching farmers burn this shit.
So they basically have to burn it.
They have to. Otherwise, it kills their equipment. So we buy up flax waste, and it doesn't cost a lot. Like we buy up 50 tons of it at a time, right? And just store it. And we use the grind in the case. So we could take like a biopolymer, which is, made of both traditional polymers and organic or plant starch, right? It's like corn or sugar or other stuff. We take that. We
so you can eat these cases too.
You could. It's BPA free, phthalate free. I wouldn't recommend it. We're doing a cooking thing here in Toronto with Mastermind Talks, and everybody's joking like we should try and get somebody to eat one as part of the show. I'm like, there's no freaking way I want to be responsible for that right now.
I don't know if you've seen, I forgot which cleaning product it was. I think it was on Shark Tank, and the guy just sprayed it in his mouth. Like, this is food grade, and have like a viral video of someone eating the phone case.
We definitely, we've toyed with that.
Get a professional eater. Get a professional eater, basically, who digest 1,000 pounds of food already.
Oh yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe
hot dog eating contest person. This is that guy. He's got a YouTube channel. We got to contact him. He'll drink like a thing of kombucha that he basically brewed himself. That looks like
that's disgusting.
That looks not okay.
No,
he could probably digest one of these phone cases.
Probably.
Anyways.
Yeah, if you cut it up into small enough pieces, for sure. I mean, it composts in like 6 months to 2 years in an actual, like a backyard compost. These cases will go away. Like they'll just go back to dirt. So it is like the material is designed for that reason, right? It's elastomer too. Like most people don't realize, but like most phone cases are hard. This thing is flexible. So it's kind of like it's closer in. It is flexible. Like it's tactile to.
I was not picturing it. Yeah, I was not picturing it to be as flexible. Wow.
Which is why it's so damn protective too, right? Like it's sort of bouncy. So it's a very functional product, and I think that's another key thing for us. It's like you can't just sell a cosmetic thing. It actually needs to protect the phone.
And Jeremy spent a while kind of honing in on this formulation.
Years and years and years of trying different formulations and different base materials. Like he knew he wanted to use flax shive, so now we're gonna look at other plant waste as well to see like what else can we use, right? It's like, what is the world's sawdust? Like what are we not using? And agriculture produces a lot of it because people eat a lot. And, the shit that we grow there's a ton of waste. Right. And the material that comes out of that stuff is pretty useful.
I mean, you also, I don't know if there's anything else on the product launch, but I had a question about, so let me know if there's anything else we're glossing over on that. The reason you can do this, one of the main reasons is because you've put a team in place, you put systems in place in Demac, because if you didn't, then you would be in that business.
Totally.
So talk about the systems in place and the decision to bring on an outside CEO, because as an entrepreneur, that's not an easy thing to do.
No.
Always.
So, both Demac and Pela run on a flavor of traction, or EOS, right? So Gino Wickman's book. Yeah. So, all of my best ideas are somebody else's, and I didn't try and come up with anything. Like, we just set out and say, like, let's use this template, this system, make it our own. So we run, your standard L10s, and we have our dashboard scorecard, and like our hiring right people, right seats. Like, the whole thing is in place at Demac. It's constantly evolving and constantly changing. And now I'm just rebuilding it for Pela, right? So the only reason Pela works and has worked well, two things. Like, one, I can focus on it, right? Because Demac's got a team, and it's got systems and process. And two, Pela gets to cheat, because if I do need help, I got 90 other employees inside of Demac, and Pela has a contract with Demac to actually engage those employees when we need them. So think about that one thing for now, right? And like, I call it cheating because I've watched for years the length of time it takes for a brand or a retailer to hire both in-house people and contractors. And you're talking about months on the calendar. Like, a big brand will take a year to make a selection of a company like a Demac. I take 1 day. Like, 1 day to say, here's my brief, this is what I want done. I know the team can do it because I own the team.
Right.
And I skip months of selection process and bullshit that most brands spend way too much time and money on. Right. And it's just I'm grateful for all of the crap that I've watched not work in 10 years.
And it's interesting. It's not just not working, but it's also breaking because it is working in a sense. What has you had to fix in Pela because it's grown so quickly? It's like every 90 days things break. So what are some of the stages that you had the main things you had to kind of go in and fix?
The main one is supply chain and operations. Like, just not enough customer support people, didn't hire them fast enough, didn't anticipate order volume. Like, this is the first brand I've been involved with where January of 2018 doubled our sales from December, and December's the holiday season. Right. Like, in 1 month we doubled. And it's just striking at the right time. Like, we just hit the market really hard with a couple pieces of content and media that we got, and it just blew up. So that means that we weren't prepared for the order influx to be double what it was the month before. And it's not like you get to turn the spigot off, right? People are buying, and like, we can turn off products that we don't have inventory on, which we did. But then it's just how fast can you pack them and ship them out the door? And we didn't have the fulfillment setup we do now. Like, now we have inventory at 3 warehouses globally, right? So we have Amazon FBA US, FBA UK, and FBA Australia starting. And then we have Canada. So we're covering a good swath of geography because we sell globally. But what that also means now is I got a technology problem in that when orders come in, I need to route them to the right warehouse based on where they need to be shipped. So we're building that currently. That system launches at the end of May to get ready for this holiday season. Like, people in fashion or apparel, they buy product 12 months out. I build systems 12 months out. Right. Like, it's like you can't do one without the other.
So do you also fulfill on some of it yourselves, or do you use outside warehouses?
Yeah, no, we have like this little mini warehouse set up in the Demac office. We keep about 4,000 or 5,000 units of stock at that little mini warehouse. Now, the nice thing is they're small items, so they don't take up a huge amount of space. And that we have a person who just fulfills orders out of the Demac office. And that's about, I would say 20 to 30% of the order volume comes out of there right now. But that's moving to other third-party warehouses over the next 6 months. Yeah.
You need to manage something else like a hole in the head. I mean, that's...
Yeah, right? That
you don't need a full fulfillment center.
No, I don't want to have full fulfillment. No, so we're focusing more on high-touch customer service, and because inspiration education, people have a lot of questions, and they engage with us on Facebook Messenger a lot. So we just need more staff there.
So what about apps that you like for Pela?
Yeah, I got a bunch. Do you want me to just rhyme off my tech stack?
Yeah.
Okay, so give me 1 second here. So I mean, we run on Shopify Plus.
Yeah.
Right? That's the core ecom platform, and it's awesome for what we're doing right now. I got some problems with it, but that's not unsolvable problems. It's just it wasn't built for the things that we want to do. Yeah. So we're gonna have to build some stuff to make it better. Now, our tech stack right now. So we use Klaviyo for email, which is great. Yotpo for product reviews, site reviews, and also Instagram UGC, so shoppable Instagram. We use Smile.io for a referral program, VIP program. It's really cool stuff. It's built here in Canada.
Everything good is built in Canada. Come on. Shopify's originated in Canada, right?
Yeah, Ottawa. Yeah, sure. Yeah. We use Grow.com for a BI tool. We use Glue.io for like a little mini CRM segmentation tool. Another Canadian company called ChatKit, which is our Facebook Messenger AI chatbot. That's interruptible by our service team. So when the chatbot gets tripped up, service picks up and has an actual human conversation with people. It's a really slick piece of software. Love ChatKit. There's a demand planning tool that I think is just awesome called Inventory Planner, which is actually a Shopify app. But I'll tell you, coming out of the ERP world and watching how much money people spend on demand planning, and there's $100 piece of software called Inventory Planner that does like 90% of what you do. That's one of those examples where I'm like, holy shit, this is awesome. Zendesk for support. OrderBot is our order management system that we're implementing right now. Jesus, man.
That's amazing.
This is
death by apps. Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah. It's
that should be your e-commerce book. You have a book.
I have one. I put out last year.
Yeah. So what's the title so people can check it out?
It's called Anything Anywhere. Right?
Your next one, version 2, is going to be Death by 1,000 Apps.
Death by 1,000 Apps. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of want to. I feel like I should have asked you if I could swear on your show, but I definitely already have, so it's too late. Yeah, I'm Canadian, man. I swear like a trucker. I think the next book is going to be, is an evolution on that. It's like how to apply it and watch it rocket with Pela, right? But I wanted to people always ask, like, why is Pela so successful? And I'm like, our strategy is simple. It's called be a fucking human. It's crazy concept.
Solving a problem and having a mission behind it that people can get behind. I mean,
totally.
is one of the things. But, big tech stack there.
And growing. And the crazy thing is I'm trying to keep it from growing. And I still have 25 plus pieces of software that run this business. And that's not even counting Google Apps and all that other shit that we just use administratively. That's just the software side, like the actual selling and service side.
Yeah. I want to hear about your favorite Demac case study. So obviously you've applied what you do to Pela. What does your favorite Demac case study look like?
Oh man,
like customer. I mean, I'm sure you have a lot of. I guess less early on, and we started off this conversation with the evolution of Demac, and it kind of went from developing Magento. So take me quickly through that, developing Magento to then
Shopify, and then we have another platform called Work Area, which is like a far more upmarket enterprise platform. So Work Area is the tool that we use when we have a brand that has a really strong content component, right? So like content and commerce.
Yeah.
Work Area's platform is like Shopify on steroids. super niche, but it's pretty wicked. So I think like the one that stands out for me recently would be Lonely Planet, right? Lonely Planet needed to relaunch their store. So like they're a pretty big, global brand. And their shop, so like shop.lonelyplanet.com is something that we've recently relaunched and rebuilt on Work Area. And the team at Lonely Planet, like this guy Mike that runs it, is just awesome. Like awesome to deal with. Like my team loves them, and they got a cool product. Like we'd never done anything in books or publishing, but this site, like Lonely Planet, has millions of SKUs. Right?
Wow, really?
Like it's big. It's like an Amazon in terms of publishing. Like it's just got a lot of SKUs because they don't just sell books. They also sell like chapters from books and sections, and like they cut them up. So and they have digital products and physical products. Like it's a big shop.
Wow.
And it's just, the Demac team did that, and it looks good. It works great. Their results so far have been awesome.
Because you do more than just development, though. I mean, at what point did you branch out from just doing the Magento development, Shopify development to
we're heavy into like design and UX now. So it's like a lot around conversion and conversion optimization and like user journey. Do a lot of like, and it's sort of, that was the thing to realize, like these companies don't take time to understand who they're selling on their site, like who are their customers. Yeah. So we do a lot of persona development, and then design and UX is built on persona development. Once the site's launched, we actually have a really good team in place on the acquisition side. So particularly Google's network, so like YouTube, GDN,
like paid
YouTube
YouTube.
Paid, all paid. And then a good email practice, so like a pretty decent retention practice. And Pela uses both of those teams to run, the majority of our marketing from a tactical standpoint, like all of our paid and all of our email. The Demac team helps out with like segmentation and which flows should you build, like what's your welcome series look like post purchase, like all that shit. They do that.
That's interesting. There's a video you have kind of breaking down these different pieces, right? And you kind of break it into paid and then not paid and then email, and then even with email you break it down to, okay, well, they email, is there a cart, from the cart abandonment side, you've broken down each piece of that, right? Yeah,
you kind of have to like, that's sort of the book was about like road mapping everything, right? And I'm not a big like business plan guy, but I am I need to see everything in a nice monthly calendar to know where I need to invest, number one, and to know how to create leverage, right? Number two. And that's why like when people talk about email marketing, I'm like, okay, no, you're going to have to go a little deeper than that, because there's a lot of stuff you can do with email, right? Like there's flows, there's journeys, like journeys and flows, there's transaction emails, there's campaigns. Then you got to talk about segmentation, so like who's getting which email, list maintenance. There's so much just in email. And most brands, 90% of it is like they're just not doing it, and that's a meat muscle problem. They just don't have the human capital to do it. I was sitting with somebody from Nike Digital in Europe, but a year or two ago. And he was complaining about not having the staff required to run proper email campaigns. And like, and his comment was like, and I'm Nike. He's like, what's everybody else doing? Right? Like, he's like, I can't even get women's shoes in front of women. Like that's my challenge. Like AI, fuck AI. Like, how about we just send the right content to the right person?
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, man. How
is that possible though? Like when you sit in front of him, like how does he not have the resources to do it?
I think
are they not doing it right?
I think it's part of that is not doing it right. Part of it is just like,
what's your recommendation?
I think this is just a really young industry, and I think that there's very few people who are truly experts in it. It's less than 20 years old. Like how much did you know at 20 years old? Like I was dumb as shit. Like inexperienced, like thought I knew everything, but I didn't. And I feel like e-commerce right now is that kid that thinks they know everything. And you see it in the ads of people selling courses and stuff. Like we think we know everything, and I don't think we've even started to play the game properly. I think global conversion rate's a great indication of just how bad we are at selling stuff online. Like the average site's like 3%? That's terrible. Right? And a store, however, like a physical store, converts visitors way better than an online shop. And there's a bunch of reasons for that. But I think it comes down to people, and I think that largely we don't have the right teams in place, and we're not organized correctly to build these kinds of businesses. Like I'll give you a good example. Like for Pela, right? Instead of hiring a marketing team, we're building a community team. So like this team is going to use marketing tools, but their job is to build community. Like that's your goal. Your goal isn't to acquire customers or retain them. It's just build the platform, build community. And most brands don't do that. Like Nike actually, I think, does a great job of it. I think this guy was just being a little facetious and bitching a bit, to be honest, because they, as a brand, they're amazing, right? But I saw recently, I think it was in Fortune, that Tom's Shoes was a more recognizable brand amongst millennials than Nike was.
Really?
Yeah. So Nike
that
spends
does surprise me.
Nike spends $3 billion a year, I believe was the number, on ads, and Tom's Shoes doesn't do $700 million in sales. And they're more recognizable. And Tom's built a community, right? They didn't build a brand, and they didn't set out to acquire customers. It was like what my buddy Bobby Glazer's like movement over moment, right? Tom's built a movement, and I think that brands have moments.
And, I mean, you are big on, and we'll give a shout out to Jason Gaynard, obviously, for what he's created. The Mastermind Talks, and I think his podcast is called Community Made, right?
Yeah, man. He nailed it, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, he nails it at this, like, for what he does, I think he nails it at the perfect scale, which is like he's got, 250 alumni in the MMT community, and it's a great size. Runs one event, 150 people. Like it's a really great model. And, I think we're looking at it and saying, okay, so can you take this community thing and scale it like globally, Facebook's Connect the World meets Jason Gaynard. Right? Like, something like that. I don't want to discount too. Like you are very methodical about metrics, and even in one of the talks I saw, what I loved of what you talked about is you have like an automation set in place. So, for instance, like if a certain metric gets below a certain amount, you'll get an email. So talk about when at what threshold do you get email notifications for some of these metrics? What are you measuring? So the reason I do that is because there are certain metrics that in the e-com and retail world people get obsessive over. So like the big one being conversion rate. I think it's one of Demac's best lead sources is people like, hey, can you help me improve my conversion rate? I'm like, yeah, sure, but like we're going to have to unpack it because it's not one number. But I think so. What I do there is like if the site falls below, so if Pela falls below 3.8%, so total conversion rate. Right? In a given day, I get a notification. Otherwise, I don't look at it ever, which blows people away. They're like, and the crazy thing is like we do a lot of optimization work, but as a like, what's the site converting at? This big thing that a lot of marketers like to talk about. I never look at it unless it hits a threshold, right? Then I know something broke because
it's just an indicator that something broke.
It's a leading indicator, and it shouldn't be used as a lagging indicator. And I think most people use it as a lagging indicator, and they get obsessive over it. We look at daily email acquisitions. So, like, if it falls below a certain number, I have like a little alert system set up. And there's lots of ways to do these. Like we use Grow.com, which is just like it's like a Domo type tool, right? So it's like a BI tool. You can just pump data into it. Yep. So I pump all the data into that. I look at it and I take a quick glance, and if nothing is below, I don't do anything with it. Like that's, and then there are certain things that we look at frequently. There's very few numbers that I would recommend people look at daily, right? In terms of, if you want to be systematic and methodical in your approach to building a company, looking at your numbers daily can probably, it's more likely to drive you insane than it is to help you make better decisions.
Yeah. talk about some of those leading indicators. So, because like you said, a lot of people are using them as lagging, not leading. Yeah. So you mentioned conversion, email acquisition. What else do you?
We look at how many reviews we get on a weekly basis. Mm-hmm. So that is for us, we've figured out that's a great leading indicator to how well we're going to do a month from now. Because the more reviews we get, and obviously they got to be good ones, the more reviews we get, the higher chance our word of mouth is. So reviews are a good leading indicator for organic and direct traffic 30 days out. I can't directly tie them together, but I can look at them, it's a good
indicator, yeah.
Using my human brain and look at both sets of numbers, and I can see that like the more we get, the more our traffic goes up. So let's just keep pushing reviews, word of mouth.
And that's big across all different channels, arenas. Is there a certain methodology used to encourage reviews?
Yeah, I mean, Yotpo is the tool we use. Honestly, like the methodology is ask. Yeah. Like crazy how many people don't ask for reviews and don't have a system for it, or like a process, or like an incentive plan, or anything, and I think that the reviews industry and what people talk about when it comes to like product reviews or brand reviews is lift on site, so conversion. Just bang on. It absolutely affects conversion. Not going to deny that. But the thing that we've discovered and that we really focus on is more reviews is equal to more traffic 30 days out. And that is unequivocal. Like it is just, it works, and it works well. So we push hard there. And then the other one we track, which is more like very manual and human intensive, is how many user generated photos do we get on Instagram?
Wow.
And that's a great leading indicator for how we're doing with delivery. So like the faster the product gets out there, and the community, like, are we building community, and are people raving about us and talking about us, and are they pushing the movement forward? And that's a good indicator that it's moving forward. It's crazy. None of this shit is sales, right? Or like sales is a lagging indicator. So like it doesn't inform me about what's going to happen in the future. Just
that's what people are looking at, though.
They're obsessing over it. And
what's the biggest mistake people are looking at as far as their metrics?
Conversion, man. Like people obsess over site-wide conversion rate instead of like unpacking it into repeat visitors, new visitors by channel. And I think the biggest mistake everybody makes right now is obsessing over attribution. So like, where am I spending money and where am I getting it? Like if I run Facebook ads, are they profitable or are they not? Every channel is claiming the wrong amount of revenue. And attribution models are incredibly complex. Like Avinash Kaushik from Google has written extensively on attribution in digital and how it's next to impossible. And like I look at that as just a strong signal that I shouldn't even try. Like if he's like the head brain of analytics at Google, and he doesn't like it. So what am I going to do? So I sort of we look at our total marketing spend as a percentage of revenue, and if it's going up and it stays within a certain ratio, I don't really fret over which channel is taking claim, and then if I have to, I will, like, if I really want to test to see the impact of like, YouTube ads, I'll just shut them off for a day or two and watch what happens.
Right.
Like, and but that only gives you like a little time window too. So I think the biggest mistake is definitely obsessing over attribution. That is that's a mess.
Yeah. Matt, first of all, thank you. This is, if people haven't been taking notes fast enough like me, I don't know if you can see this. This is like, then this has been truly amazing. I have two last questions, but I want people to check out, they should check out, if we haven't talked about it, pelacase.com, PELACASE case.com, to check out the fully compostable cell phone cases in iPhone, Android, and check out their mission. You guys are doing amazing stuff with that. And you can check out demacmedia.com if you do have an e-commerce brand and you need to get to the next level with what the services they have. Check them out. Obviously, if you've listened to any of this Matt knows what he's doing, and the team knows what they're doing. It's demacmedia.com. And so, Matt, I always like to ask, since it's Inspired Insider, what has been the lowest moment that you had to push through? And on the flip side, what's been a proud milestone that you were able to hit? Because that's why I loved you talking about the tooling and that stuff, because people see, oh, you make whatever it is. People make $1 million or whatever amount they make, 10 million or 20, and they don't realize they had to actually build out the supply chain. You had to get them a source of materials. The guy probably spent like 5-6 years trying to develop the product. Yep. And then they have to pay $10,000 per the tooling, ship it over from China, put it into, there's all these pieces that get put into actually, then you get a product, and then you can actually, then you have to educate and talk about the mission, and then someone buys the product. All this stuff happens. It's like the iceberg, right? There's this little tip you see above, and then there's huge mammoth iceberg underneath that actually you only see the tip, though. So thanks for sharing all those steps and those details. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, so just to answer, like there hasn't been a whole lot of like what I would call truly low moments, right? There's so many bumps in the road, though. Yeah. That I think for me, that's the frustrating part, is like every day you're going to take at least one punch. Right. They tend to, I think that I just don't. Analogy. I just
picture you like a black eye every day.
That's it. Man. You're just going to take a punch, and it's like, the things that I don't like losing people, like when they leave, whether it's for good reasons or bad. I hate it when people leave. I feel like I've let them down. But that I also know that's just part of life.
Maybe talk about that for a second, because that is a theme in what you do, which is people, right? Building a team and people. And you've had, I know, when I did my research, there's people who, like some of the first 10 or 12 people in Demac are still with the company, years later, a decade later, or whatever it is. So talk about maybe a low moment there, but like a retention. How do what things do you do to build a culture and so people want to actually stay and be there?
Yeah, I talked a lot about that. So on Jason Gainer's podcast in the first season, I talked with Tony Guerreri from about culture, right?
I listened to it. It's a good one. Yeah.
It's culture's a hard thing to define, and it's a hard thing to build, and it definitely starts top down, and it starts with like core cultural pillar people, and over the years we've had like original folks stick around for a long time, and then we've had them leave too. And I mean, like, Jesus, if I can get more than 5 years out of any one person, I would consider that a success. And I say that just simply as like people want to learn more and do more and spread out and try different things, and especially engineers, right? That constantly want new challenges. Like if they're good, they're sharpening the axe all the time. So I think we've done a good job of making it interesting and keeping it interesting at different points throughout Demac's life cycle. And then,
what's something you learned, I guess? Like, so let's say someone left, like a low moment, they left and you learned, we need to incorporate this now into.
Oh yeah. I mean, like we've had people leave because we weren't providing enough training and support, right? Like, and then, so that was years ago. And then we sort of created an education budget that people could grab and use ad hoc. Like there's like $60,000 a year that we allocate to that. So people can grab up to $2,000 at a time, first come, first serve, to go and spend it on a course or a class or something. It doesn't even have to be related to what we do. Just like use it to get better. It's like continuous learning and development is something that like I believe in. We want to encourage that. And, you think like those lessons from Demac. So Demac was a team built around like having fun and building cool shit, right? That was the original thing. Like I started the company because I wanted to have fun and build cool shit. That was it. Like that's the engineer in me. It's what I like to do. Pela is built around a very different culture. Pela is we are committed to a waste-free future. So when you think of the people we're recruiting now, that's the core thing that we're galvanizing around. It's everyday products without everyday waste. So I think it's going to create a very different culture, which ultimately is why we separated the two. Like it's a big reason why we separated the two companies is culturally they're going to be different. Pela's going to look like Patagonia, man. People are going to bleed this company because they believe in the mission.
Yeah.
Right. Same roles. Like, I bet you that the team structure and the roles don't look all that dissimilar, but they're there for a different reason. And I think, like, leaders need to recognize why your people are where they are. And that's why I'm okay with people leaving, because, like, life changes too, right? Like, we've had like really great people, even recently, really great people leave because they're just moving for their family. Like, they're going to, like, buy a house far away, and it's for personal reasons. I don't like that they're leaving, but fuck, man, you can't knock that. That's good. You know, good for you for taking care of you.
Yeah. What about on the flip side? Proud moment, milestone.
Oh, I got a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I first met Jeremy, the founder for Pela, you know, his dream at the time was, he still had a job. He's like, I'd love to just be employed by Pela. Right? I'm like, I will do that. Like, I will make sure this company gets big enough that you can do that. And he started full time in January, left his job, right? First time in 7 years of him hacking on that product.
Really?
He's like, this is fucking awesome. Because we built a business that can support him and his family. And, like, that's I
huge.
always love hearing that. Yeah.
That's huge. I thought you were going to say working with your wife, but I won't tell you didn't say that.
No,
I'm just kidding. What have you learned from working with your spouse? Because you guys started Demac.
Yeah, we worked together for 6 years, and then retired her, is what we call it. We retired her. The business was getting bigger, and she didn't sign up for that. But we always talked about it. She's like, I don't want it to get any bigger than a certain size, and we also wanted to start having kids. So, like, that was right around the time that we got pregnant with Olive, who's our daughter, and it was just perfect timing. So transitioned her out. We actually worked really well together because, we didn't work together. That's why we worked well together. She was very creative, and I was, sales and engineering, and nice clean lines right between the two roles. So we didn't cross paths a whole lot, which I think our marriage was good.
It's a good healthy thing.
Yes.
Matt, thank you. This has been fantastic. Everyone should check out pelacase.com, demacmedia.com, and I just wanted the first one to say I really appreciate it. So
yeah. Oh, and I've actually got it. If they actually want to reach out to me, it's mattbertulli.com.
Okay, mattbertulli.com.
There's like LinkedIn, Twitter, Medium.
Where can they find? Obviously, they can find the cases on your website. They can find them on Amazon too.
Yeah. We just started on Amazon. So.
Oh, really? Okay. Your book. Anything, anywhere. Where can Amazon. They find that? On Amazon? Is it on Audible?
No.
Damn.
I never did that. I should have.
You still can. I would listen.
I still can. I know. I should. I really should.
Million things that you
I know.
You have 20 product launches today.
Yeah.
So,
I've got some other things I got to do right now.
But thank you, everyone. Check it out, and see you on the flip side.
Yeah, man. Cheers, bud.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like $100 grand.